Welcome back, pilots. So in the previous video you would have seen that I've started to try and fly my new winter hack, the Xeno. It's second hand, it's got plenty of hours on it, hence I got it for cheap. It needs a little bit of attention to make it just right. I was advised, as I always would be, to do a trim check on the aircraft, to send it away, do that. Now I appreciate getting professional people to do these jobs, absolutely makes perfect sense. I've had it done to gliders before, but I also love to understand my own equipment and be able to do the work myself if I can. I've trimmed my base, that was my second wing. I've trimmed my cure, that was my third wing, and now I'm going to give a trim to the Xeno as well. I've got spreadsheets on the computer, I've got the information from Ozone for the measured line lengths for the Xeno. I've got the rigging diagram so I can check each individual line if I really need to. But first thing that I done after the flight at Ypres the other day is, I was talking about in the last video that the lines still felt short. Now I thought this from the first time I tried flying this wing. Reason being, the very first time I was having to do forward launches, I did try and do a backwards launch, but I found that it didn't want to come up as easy as it should do. Now this could be two things, it could be out of trim or it could be the brake lines. Now the one thing that I've noticed is the brake lines are definitely feeling too short. So as soon as I came back from Ypres the other day, I gave it a good once over, checked just the lower lines for the brakes. Now I quickly checked this on the glider, packed up over here, about to get it out for rigging. And I'm going to insert these photos because I found that the actual line lengths were out by 210 mil, both sides. So these had been shortened by over 20 centimeters, both left and right. And this would explain that when I tilt the wing forward on bar, I only went as far as half bar, that the brake lines, pivot point on the B lines, means that the tail of the wing will actually pitch up slightly. And the brake lines themselves are all designed to have enough slack in them that when you go on bar, there's still enough slack left over that it doesn't influence the shape of the tail of the wing. Now these have been shortened by 21 centimeters, so when it swivels around the B lines and the tail of the aircraft goes upwards, that slack has been taken out and it starts to pull down on the tail of the wing. I've managed to make some line extensions. I've put another 21 centimeters back into the brake lines, simply because the brake lines were originally actually cut down too short. So I couldn't just undo the knot, lengthen it, and then re-tie up at the handles. I've made them out of 180 kilo brake and strain Dyneema. And I'm about to show you how we splice it together to make it. Alright, so first off, here is my Liros DC 180. You see 180 kilo brake and strain for this. So that is what we are going to make our brake extensions, rather than waiting for brand new lines. We can actually just extend these quite safely, I think. So we're going to start with a quick splice. Right here, we're going to fold over the tail. Don't need a massive eyelet for this. We can have a little bit of excess tail on the other end. So what I'm going to do is where I feel this is the right size eyelet, I'm going to call this the tail and this the body. I'm going to pinch that together just to flare it out just there. We're then going to grab ourselves a needle I've already adjusted, and this needle if you can see, I've flared out the eyelet so that we can fit this line inside it. So we're going to take our line, see where we've flared it, and we're going to put the needle right through the middle, and then we're going to feed the end of the line inside, not too much, make it easier, pull through, needle to the side, and there you go. You've got the line going through the body already. Right, so I reckon that's probably a good enough size for the splice. So what we do now, we've got the body going around to the tail, and the tail's gone through the body. Now we need to put this loop through the tail directly underneath splice. So we're going to flare that out and grab our needle. We'll put the needle through this part. And we are going to feed the tip of this into the eyelet. So we've got the body round, and we're going to be putting this loop through the tail. So what we're going to do is pull that up there. We're going to try and draw the material over the top. This is why we only want to feed a little bit through the needle, so otherwise you've got a lot of material there to try and get through. There you go. So it's still in there. We've now managed to pull that through. We can take the needle out, get that, and we can pull that, and there we have our splice. Now I can actually pull that through, but it actually locks itself like that. So that is a locked splice right there. So what are we going to do with this tail? Well, one, it's excessively long, so we're going to shorten that down. Just going to do that on here. Move the excess out of the way. So we've still got this lock, and what we need to do now is we are going to flare the body of the line, and we're going to slide this into it. So from there, you flare this out, just for your information guys, this is coreless braided line, which makes it a lot easier. I've tried doing these splices on cord stuff and it's not so easy. Right, so from underneath where the tail's coming out, we're now going to thread this needle down the middle of this flared portion. Generally, if you flare enough, the same length as the tail, once the tail's threaded in, it will hide as we tighten it all up. See, so we've got the flared part, we just put the needle through, first down, and now we put the tail into the eyelet, not too far, and now we are going to pull the needle through and pull that tail into the body of that line. A little bit of wiggling, precision. There we go. So now you can see all that flared part is there. The tail has now come out the other end. I'm going to grab the loop and then pinch the body, pull it through, and there we have our locking splice, and the tail is nice and neatly inside the braid of it itself. That's one end. Right, so on my cutting board I've marked out a position of 210mm from the end of the board. From here I can get my line, something nice and solid, put it to the end of the board, and I can make sure that I've got that nice and straight. And at this measurement of 210, I'm going to put a little black mark with a marker pen right across it. That is how long we want the spliced length to resemble at the very end. So what you would normally think is right, so we're going to fold that and we can repeat the same this end, and we will end up with a 210 length piece of line. Not so. The splicing method itself, and depending on the amount of tail you put inside the core, will actually take up length of this material. This is essentially how lines on gliders shrink. They tend to get dirt on the inside of the braid, which then when you tighten it down, it can't go down as it was originally done, and therefore it will take up the length, and that's how some lines shrink. So knowing that we're going to put some inside it, what I'm going to do is actually give it a little bit extra length. Now I haven't got exact science for this with this type of splicing, but I tend to find that somewhere around that, it's a couple mil. Then I can come down here, cut a tail, get rid of the rest of it, and now I want to repeat what I've done this end to this end. Hold on to the loop, onto the end, tail goes in. There we go, and we have 210. There we go, and here's our insert. Now that is supposed to lux straight onto there, and rather than me going out and buying a whole new brake line which isn't worn out for my winter hack, here is the small 21cm extension in the brake. So next thing to do is get a spreadsheet up. I need to populate it with all the original line lengths. We're looking at these ones here, linked line check sheet. So I got to find my spreadsheet, input original numbers, then I've got to measure all of the lines. Then we compare the measured lines to the factory measure lines to find the difference. Hopefully it's all very close and there's no trimming needed. So spreadsheet is populated with production line lengths, A's, AB's, B's, C's, brake lines. I will have to format the cells once I fill in all details of the actual measured line lengths. Right, all measurements have been done. I've double checked some erroneous ones that have sort of stuck up like a sore thumb. And what we've now got is all the averages. So we're looking at these averages, and across the board everything's shrunk extremely close. So it's well within. The only ones that really show up as erroneous even after all this, the main ones is I've highlighted here and here. They're the baby A risers, and we've actually got a shrinkage of 16mm and 19mm. There was a double knot adjustment on the baby risers. I've just taken 10mm from that knot, lengthened it. As you can see, the last ones are, however, still a bit on the short side, but symmetrically both sides. Right, so our A's and B's are down here. And if we go back to the chart, you'll notice that our A's and B's are on the plus side. So we need to lengthen those together. That should bring those out to the norm. So a few more tweaks. We've got a lot less issues now. So these numbers have come right down. These were like -20, -16 or so. So these are the numbers overall measured versus factory. So we've got some shrinkage of 3.5mm, 5mm, 3mm, 4.5mm, 5.5, 6, 5, 2. So within millimeters of each other. If there was a tolerance of 10, we're well within on all of them. But they have all shrunk on average around about the same. So trim done, brakes lengthened. There was an issue with the wingtip lines over here. So we've got our baby A risers. We sorted that out. by taking a knot out of the line, and then we just had our last 3 A's and B's, which needed some length, and I've done a small extension. Now I've only done this type of extension because it is the wingtip, and I know this sort of extension works really well on kites, which will lift you up anyway. So just for the outside ones, got a knotted extension of 15mm to hold the very wingtip together. So previous owner clearly had a way that they liked the wing to fly. So it was already double looped near the wingtips, and there's still a bit of shortness in the very ends as well. That could easily have been age and shrinkage. So essentially the wingtips would have been a little bit quicker. Now on launch, I noticed the wingtips did want to come up a little bit quicker. That would explain that. And now the brakes have got the extension in them. So it should now be as close to factory as I could possibly get it myself, within 5mm on a few things. So all we can do now is wait for the good weather, go out, give it another fly. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you guys. If you've got any comments, comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the sky.